Do you ever feel like you're losing yourself trying to keep everyone else happy? You say yes when you want to say no. You shrink your dreams to fit someone else's expectations. You tolerate things you swore you wouldn't, just to avoid conflict. And then one day you look in the mirror and barely recognize the person staring back. At what point do you stop giving and start losing yourself? Today we're breaking down 7 things you should never sacrifice, no matter what. These aren't just minor preferences. They are the pillars of your identity, your happiness, and your freedom. Stoicism, an ancient philosophy of resilience and self-mastery, teaches us that true power comes from knowing what you should never compromise. Because once you start giving up little parts of yourself, soon there's nothing left to hold on to. If you've ever struggled with setting boundaries, felt drained by people who take more than they give, or wondered why it's so hard to protect what matters most, this video is for you. Let's dive in. The foundation of who you are, self-respect, is the foundation of everything. It's the backbone of your confidence, the compass for your decisions, and the invisible force that dictates how others treat you. Without it, you become easy to manipulate, constantly bending to expectations that aren't even yours. And the hardest part? The moment you start standing up for yourself, people will accuse you of changing. The moment I realized I had lost myself. Remember a time when I compromised my self-respect without even realizing it. It started small. A dismissive comment from someone close to me. "You're too sensitive. You always overthink things. Maybe you're not cut out for that." At first, I brushed it off, but over time, these words sank in. I found myself second-guessing my choices, silencing my voice, making myself smaller, all to fit into someone else's comfort zone. Then one day, I looked in the mirror and didn't recognize who I had become. Reclaiming my self-respect was one of the hardest things I've ever done. Because when you start enforcing boundaries, people push back. They'll say you're difficult, selfish, even cold, but they're not upset that you changed. They're upset that they can no longer control you. Why self-respect is mistaken for. Arrogant society conditions us to believe that standing up for ourselves is rude, that saying no is mean, that walking away from disrespect is overreacting. But here's a reality check. The people who benefit most from your lack of boundaries will try to make you feel guilty for having them. There's a difference between arrogance and self-respect. Arrogance is thinking you're better than others. Self-respect is knowing you are not beneath anyone. The self-respect test. If you hesitate before setting a boundary, ask yourself, would I accept this if it were happening to a close friend? If the answer is no, then you already know what to do. How to set boundaries without unnecessary conflict. Be direct, not defensive. A simple, "I'm not comfortable with that," is enough. Stay firm, even when people push back. They'll test you. Stand your ground. Enforce boundaries with actions, not just words. If someone repeatedly disrespects you, don't remind them. Distance yourself. Don't apologize for respecting yourself. You don't owe anyone an explanation for protecting your peace. The Stoic perspective on self-respect. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Never esteem anything as an advantage to you that will make you break your word or lose your self-respect." In other words, no opportunity, relationship, or situation is worth compromising your dignity for. The next time someone asks you to shrink yourself, ask, "Is this worth losing myself over?" And if the answer is no, stand your ground. Dreams are not just goals. They are a part of you. Dreams are not just goals. They are extensions of who you are. They reflect your passions, your potential, and the unique vision you have for your life. Yet for some reason, society is quick to dismiss them as unrealistic, impractical, or even selfish. You've probably heard it before. "That's a great idea, but don't you think it's time to be realistic?" Your dream is fine for now, but when are you going to grow up? And the worst part? The people who say this usually mean well. They think they're protecting you from disappointment. But what they don't realize is that discouraging someone From chasing their dream is one of the fastest ways to drain the life out of them. How childhood dreams get lost in adulthood's expectations. Think back to when you were a child. What did you want to be? An astronaut, a musician, a writer, an athlete? As kids, we dream without limits. We see possibilities, not obstacles. But then we grow up, and suddenly we're told to be practical, to play it safe, to follow a path that is secure rather than one that is fulfilling. The kid who wanted to paint for a living is now stuck in a job they hate. The one who dreamed of traveling the world is now afraid to leave their comfort zone. The aspiring entrepreneur never took the leap because they feared judgment. And one day they wake up and ask themselves, what happened to me? The regret of not chasing your dreams is heavier than the fear of failure. Here's a truth that most people don't talk about. The pain of trying and failing is nothing compared to the pain of never trying at all. It's easy to say, I'll go after my dreams later. But later turns into years. Years turn into a lifetime. And regret stays with you. If you ever need proof of this, talk to someone who's older, someone who gave up on what they truly wanted. Ask them if they wish they had taken more risks. The answer is almost always yes. Someone who stayed true to their dream. Consider Steve Harvey. Before becoming a household name, he was homeless, living in his car for 3 years. People told him to give up, to find a real job, but he didn't. He kept chasing his dream of being a comedian, taking any opportunity to perform, no matter how small, and eventually, he made it. Imagine if he had given up. Imagine if he had let someone else's doubt dictate his future. That's the thing about chasing dreams. It's not about instant success. It's about persistence, because no matter how many people doubt you, you have to believe in yourself first. How to nurture your dreams while handling responsibilities. Now, let's be real. I'm not saying you should quit your job tomorrow and throw caution to the wind. Responsibilities matter. Financial stability matters. But that doesn't mean you have to give up on your dreams. It just means you have to be smart about how you pursue them. Here's how. Carve out time every day, even if it's just 30 minutes. If something truly matters to you, you will make time for it. Wake up earlier. Use your lunch break. Set aside an hour at night. Small, consistent effort adds up over time. Surround yourself with dreamers, not doubters. Who you spend time with influences your mindset. If you're constantly around people who shoot down your ideas, it will drain your motivation. Find a community, whether online or in real life, that supports your ambition. Take small steps toward the bigger goal. If your dream is to start a business, start by building a side hustle. If you want to write a book, start with 1 page a day. Dreams don't happen overnight, but they happen one step at a time. Remind yourself why you started on tough days. Remember what made you passionate about your dream in the first place. Write it down. Keep it visible. The Stoic perspective on dream stoicism teaches us that while we can't control everything, we can control how much effort we put into the things that matter to us. Seneca once said, "It is not because things are difficult that we do not dare. It is because we do not dare that they are difficult." The hardest part of chasing a dream isn't the work. It's having the courage to start. The next time someone tells you that your dream is unrealistic, just smile and say, "Maybe it is for you," then go prove them wrong. The one thing you can never get back: time is the one resource you can never replenish. You can lose money and earn it again. You can make mistakes and correct them. But once a moment is gone, it's gone forever. Yet despite its value, so many of us give our time away carelessly. We say yes when we want to say no. We fill our days with obligations that don't align with our values. We get caught up in distractions that add no real meaning to our lives. And before we know it, the days, weeks, and years slip away, spent on things that didn't truly matter. Why we waste time? Without realizing it, most people don't set out to waste time. It happens gradually, in small, seemingly harmless ways. You agree to favors you don't have time for, Because you don't want to disappoint others. You check emails and messages constantly because you feel obligated to be available. You sit down to relax for a few minutes, only to find yourself scrolling through social media for an hour with nothing to show for it. Over time, these tiny time leaks turn into major life drains, until one day you look back and wonder, where did all my time go? Digital distractions. The silent time thief, one of the biggest culprits? Digital distractions. Studies show that the average person spends over 2 hours a day on social media. That adds up to an entire month every year. Gone. And the worst part? Most of that time isn't even intentional. No one opens their phone thinking, I'm going to waste the next hour scrolling through videos I won't remember tomorrow. But that's exactly what happens. Social media apps, news notifications, endless content. They are all designed to steal your attention, and attention is time. Even the Stoics, who lived centuries before smartphones, understood this problem. Seneca once warned, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." So here's a challenge. The next time you pick up your phone, ask yourself, am I choosing to do this or am I just reacting? The urgency trap. Why you always feel pressured to be available. In today's world, there's an unspoken expectation that you should always be reachable. A friend texts you and expects an instant reply. Your job sends emails after hours, and you feel guilty for not answering. Someone calls you, and if you don't pick up, they assume something's wrong. This is the urgency trap, the idea that every request for your time demands an immediate response. But here's the truth. Very few things are truly urgent. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, said, "If you seek tranquility, do less. Or do what's essential, do less better." In other words, if you want to reclaim your time, stop treating everything like an emergency. Not every email needs a same-day response. Not every favor needs to be accepted. Not every notification needs to be checked. How to politely but firmly decline commitments that don't align with your priorities. 1. The biggest time drains isn't technology. It's other people's expectations. We say yes to things we don't want to do because we feel guilty. We overcommit because we don't want to let others down. But every time you say yes to something unimportant, you're saying no to something that matters. So how do you protect your time without offending others? Here are a few ways to say no without guilt. Be direct but kind. Instead of making excuses, just be honest. I appreciate the invite, but I need to focus on other priorities right now. I wish I could help, but I have too much on my plate at the moment. 2. Offer an alternative if you want to. If you genuinely want to help but can't commit, suggest a compromise. I can't do that this week, but I'd love to catch up next month. I don't have time to take on this project, but I can offer some quick advice. Set clear boundaries. If you're constantly getting last-minute requests, let people know your limits. I need at least a few days' notice for things like this. I don't check emails after 7 p.m., but I'll get back to you in the morning. And most importantly, you don't owe an explanation. You are allowed to protect your time. The Stoic perspective on time. The Stoics believed that time was our most precious asset. They understood that life is fleeting, and that wasting time is the greatest loss of all. Seneca put it perfectly. You act like mortals in all that you fear, and like immortals in all that you desire. How late it is to begin really to live when life must end. In other words, we act as if we have all the time in the world, until we realize we don't. So, stop waiting. Stop wasting time on things that don't matter. Because in the end, the only time that truly belongs to you is the time you choose to spend wisely. Mental health isn't something you should only deal with when everything falls apart. You don't wait for your car to break down completely before changing the oil, and you shouldn't wait until you're burnt out, overwhelmed, or emotionally drained before prioritizing your well-being. Yet in today's world, mental health is often treated like an afterthought, something we'll get to when there's time. But here's the truth. If you don't make time for your mental health, burnout will force you to. The silent toll of ignoring your mental health. For years, I believed that pushing through exhaustion was a sign of strength. I told myself that if I just worked harder, ignored the stress, and kept going, everything would be fine. But ignoring your mental health doesn't make the struggles disappear. It only makes them worse. Anxiety builds. Stress becomes your default state. You wake up feeling exhausted. No matter how much sleep you get, you find yourself becoming irritable, unfocused, and disconnected from the things that once made you happy. And then, one day, you crash. Self-care is more than spa days and meditation. When people talk about self-care, they often picture bubble baths, candles, and meditation apps. And while those things can help, self-care is so much deeper than that. Real self-care isn't just about relaxation. It's about what you allow into your life, the people you surround yourself with. Are they draining your energy or supporting your well-being, the work you do? Is it fulfilling or is it slowly grinding you down? The habits you engage in, are they lifting you up or pulling you deeper into stress? Self-care isn't always comfortable. Sometimes it means having difficult conversations, setting boundaries, and walking away from things that no longer serve you. It's about making choices today that will protect your well-being tomorrow. Why ignoring one sacrifice weakens the rest? Your mental health is connected to every other part of your life. If you constantly sacrifice your self-respect, you'll feel unworthy and anxious. If you abandon your dreams, you'll feel lost and unfulfilled. If you give away your time to everyone but yourself, you'll burn out. When one piece of the puzzle falls apart, everything else starts to crumble with it. This is why protecting your mental health isn't selfish. It's necessary. It's what allows you to show up as the best version of yourself in every other area of life. A practical framework. Check in with yourself before you check in with the world. One of the simplest ways to protect your mental health is to start every day by checking in with yourself before checking in with the world. Most of us wake up and immediately reach for our phones. We check emails, scroll through social media, respond to messages, all before we've even taken a moment to see how we feel. This puts us in a reactive state before the day even begins. Instead of setting our own priorities, we let the world dictate them for us. Here's a challenge. For the first 10-15 minutes of your day, don't look at your phone. Instead, ask yourself, how am I feeling today? What do I need to focus on? What will help me stay grounded and balanced? By doing this, you reclaim control over your mindset before external stressors take over. The Stoic perspective on mental health. Stoicism teaches us that we cannot control everything that happens to us, but we can control how we respond. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." This means that while life will always have challenges, you can protect your peace by focusing on what is within your control. So before you push yourself to the limit, ask yourself, what's the cost of ignoring my mental health? Because the price of burnout is far greater than the time it takes to care for yourself. Boundaries are not just invisible lines. They are declarations of self-respect. They define what you will and won't tolerate, ensuring that your time, energy, and mental well-being are protected. Yet many people struggle with setting boundaries. They fear being seen as rude, difficult, or selfish. But here's the truth. The only people who get upset when you set boundaries are the ones who benefited from you not having any. People will test your limits, some unknowingly, others intentionally. But the ones who truly respect you will honor your boundaries without question. Why boundaries matter more than you. Think for years I thought being a good person meant being available to everyone all the time. I said yes to favors I didn't have time for. I answered work emails at all hours. I tolerated disrespect because I didn't want to cause conflict. But over time, I realized something. The more I gave, the more people expected. And the more I ignored my own needs, the more resentful I became. That's when I learned a crucial lesson. Setting boundaries isn't about pushing people away. It's about making space for what truly matters. How to set digital boundaries in today's world. Being constantly connected is mistaken for being responsible. Society expects us to answer messages instantly, check work emails late at night, and always be available. But just because you can be reached 24/7 doesn't mean you should be. Here's how to set digital boundaries without guilt. Create no-phone zones. Set specific times when you won't check emails or messages, e.g., after 7 p.m. or during meals. Use Do Not Disturb mode. Silence notifications during your personal time. The world won't end if you don't reply immediately. Set email expectations. If you don't want to answer work emails after hours, add a simple line to your email signature. I respond to emails during business hours. Thank you for your patience. By doing this, you train others to respect your boundaries, and more importantly, you train yourself to stop feeling guilty for enforcing them. Flexible versus firm boundaries. When to bend and when to stand. Firm. Not all boundaries are the same. Some should be flexible, especially for loved ones, while others should be non-negotiable, particularly when dealing with toxic people. Flexible boundaries for loved ones. You might occasionally stay late at work for an important project. You might make an exception for a close friend in need. You might adjust your plans to accommodate a family emergency. Firm boundaries for toxic people. You do not tolerate disrespect, period. You do not engage with manipulative behavior. You do not allow guilt to pressure you into doing things that harm your well-being. The key is knowing the difference. Being flexible for people who genuinely respect you is kindness. Being flexible for people who constantly take advantage of you is self-destruction. Saying no isn't rejection, it's redirection. Many people struggle with saying no because they think it's rejection. But saying no isn't about pushing people away. It's about protecting your time and energy for what truly matters. Saying no to unnecessary commitments. Saying yes to your priorities. Saying no to toxic relationships. Saying yes to your peace. Saying no to overworking, or saying yes to your mental health. Think of it this way. Every time you say yes to something unimportant, you are saying no to something meaningful. The Stoic perspective on boundaries. The Stoics believed that maintaining inner peace required setting limits on what we allowed into our lives. Epictetus once said, "If someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation." In other words, no one can cross your boundaries unless you allow them to. So protect your peace. Guard your time. And remember, boundaries aren't barriers. They are the foundation of a life that respects your needs and well-being. Financial independence isn't just about money. It's about freedom. It's about having control over your choices, your future, and ultimately, your peace of mind. Yet, so many people find themselves trapped in situations they don't want to be in because of financial dependence. They stay in toxic jobs, unhealthy relationships, or environments that drain them, not because they want to, but because they feel like they have no other option. When you don't have control over your finances, you don't have control over your decisions, and that's a dangerous place to be. Why financial dependence leads to compromised choices? Think about it. How many people do you know who stay in jobs they hate because they're afraid of losing their paycheck? Remain in toxic relationships because they can't afford to leave? Avoid pursuing their dreams because they don't have a financial safety net? It's not just about money. It's about the fear of losing stability. And that fear can keep you stuck in situations that don't serve you. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." True financial freedom isn't about being rich. It's about having enough to walk away from anything that doesn't align with your values. Small, everyday habits that build financial independence. Financial independence doesn't happen overnight, but it's built through small, consistent habits. Here are a few that can make a big difference. Track your spending. You can't control what you don't measure. Even just being aware of where your money goes can help you make better financial decisions. Save before you spend. Instead of saving what's left over, set aside a percentage of your income as soon as you get paid. Treat it like a non-negotiable expense. Live below your means. It's tempting to increase your lifestyle as you earn more, but financial freedom comes from spending less than you make, not just making more. Invest in yourself. The best investment you'll ever make isn't into stocks or real estate. It's your own skills and knowledge. Learning how to increase your earning potential gives you long-term security. Build an emergency fund. Having even a few months' worth of savings can be the difference between staying trapped and having the power to make a change when you need to. The psychological impact of financial freedom. Most people think financial independence is about numbers, but the truth is, it's about peace of mind. It's about knowing that if your job becomes unbearable, you can leave without panic. It's about having the confidence to say no to things that don't align with your values. It's about never being in a position where someone else controls your choices because you need their financial support. When you're financially independent, you move through life differently. You make decisions from a place of power, not fear. A Stoic lesson. Money is a tool, not a master. One of the biggest misconceptions about financial independence is that it's about hoarding wealth. But Stoicism teaches us that money is a tool, not a master. Epictetus once said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." In other words, financial freedom isn't just about making more money, it's about needing less. So instead of chasing endless wealth, focus on building a life where your financial situation never controls you. A life where your choices aren't dictated by money, but by your values, your passions, and your freedom. Because at the end of the day, money should work for you, not the other way around. Passion is what makes life meaningful. It's the fire that keeps you going, the thing that excites you, the reason you get out of bed with energy rather than just obligation. Yet society has a strange way of convincing people to give up on their passions in favor of practicality. That's a nice hobby, but you can't make a living from it. It's fun, but you should focus on something more stable. You don't have time for that anymore. Real life comes first. And so, people trade their passion for what's safe, what's expected, what's realistic. But here's the truth. A life without passion isn't practical. It's empty. How passion gets lost, and how to reconnect with it. Many people don't consciously give up on their passion. It just fades over time. Responsibilities take over. Work drains their energy. Society convinces them that passion is childish or unimportant, and before they know it, they haven't touched the thing they once loved in years. If you feel disconnected from your passion, here's how to find your way back. Ask yourself, what did I love before life got in the way? What did you naturally gravitate toward as a child or teenager? Writing, music, creating, exploring? Your passion may still be there. It's just buried under years of expectations. Make time for it again, even in small ways. You don't have to quit your job to pursue your passion. Just start small. 15 minutes a day, 1 weekend a month, anything that keeps the fire alive. Stop waiting for permission. Society won't give you a green light to follow your passion. If you wait for validation, you'll wait forever. Do it because you love it, not because others approve. Passion versus hobby. It can be both, but it can also be your purpose. One of the biggest misconceptions about passion is that it's just a hobby, something to do for fun, but not something that can shape your life. And for some, that's true. Not every passion has to turn into a career. If you love painting but don't want to sell your art, that's fine. If you love writing but don't want to publish books, that's fine. But for others, passion isn't just a side project, it's their purpose. Think about it. Every great artist, entrepreneur, musician, writer, and creator started with a passion. The only difference between a hobby and a life's work is commitment. If you feel drawn to something so deeply that you can't imagine life without it, Why not explore what's possible? A real-life example. Someone who turned passion into impact. Consider Steve Jobs. Before he revolutionized technology, he was just a guy obsessed with design and innovation. He didn't start Apple because it was practical. He started it because he was passionate about creating something different. Or take J.K. Rowling, who wrote Harry Potter while struggling financially. If she had listened to the people who told her writing wasn't practical, she would have never created one of the most beloved stories in history. These people didn't pursue their passion because it was easy. They pursued it because they couldn't imagine doing anything else. The Stoic perspective. Passion is fuel for a meaningful life. Stoicism teaches that a meaningful life isn't just about survival, it's about purpose. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." If your thoughts are consumed by duty, obligation, and practicality, but never passion, you'll never feel truly fulfilled. So don't let society convince you that passion is indulgent. It's not. It's necessary. Because at the end of your life, you won't regret the things you tried. You'll regret the passions you ignored. So go after what sets your soul on fire. Because passion isn't just something you do. It's who you are. These 7 things, your self-respect, your dreams, your time, your mental health, your boundaries, your financial independence, and your passion, are not luxuries. They are your foundation. Lose them, and you lose yourself. The world will always ask you to compromise. It will test your limits, push your boundaries, and demand more of you than you can give. And while compromise is sometimes necessary, there are lines that should never be crossed. Because the moment you start sacrificing these core aspects of yourself to please others, to avoid conflict, or to fit into expectations that were never meant for you, you begin to fade. You become a version of yourself that exists for others but no longer feels like you. Stoicism teaches us that true fulfillment isn't about gaining more, pleasing everyone, or chasing external validation. It's about protecting what truly matters. It's about knowing what is within your control and refusing to let anything or anyone strip you of your dignity, your purpose, or your inner peace. As Epictetus once said, "No person has the power to have everything they want, but it is in their power not to want what they do not have." You don't need to have everything. You don't need to be everything for everyone. You just need to hold on to what makes you you. So stand firm, protect your time, guard your peace, pursue what lights you up, and never ever let anyone convince you to give up what truly matters. Because at the end of the day, the people who truly respect you, the ones who belong in your life, will never ask you to sacrifice yourself just to keep them comfortable. They will honor your boundaries. They will respect your dreams. They will celebrate your passion. And the ones who don't, let them go.